ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la la la.
Shabbat Shalom, good Shabbos, Baruchim Habayim. Delighted to welcome all of you here this Shabbat Eve, whether you're joining us here in person in this space, or you're joining us online, so we're together in this time. You'll find the words during much of the service for those of you who are with us just in space before you on the screens. As we begin singing from the 92nd Psalm, a song for Shabbat, page 640.
שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון, להגיד בבוקר חסדך, באמונתך בלילות, עלי עשור ועלי נעבך, עלי היגיון וחינות, מזמור שיר ליום השבת,
As we continue responsively back on page 127. There are days when we seek things for ourselves and measure failure by what we do not gain. On Shabbat, not to acquire, but to share. There are days when we exploit nature as if it were a horn of plenty that can never be exhausted. On Shabbat, we stand in wonder before the mystery of creation. There are days when we act as if we cared nothing for the rights of others. On Shabbat, we remember that justice is our duty and a better word our goal. So we embrace Shabbat, day of rest, day of wonder, day of peace, welcoming Shabbat, Lecha Dodi 138.
Lecha Dodi ligerakala, bene Shabbat nekabela, Lecha Dodi ligerakala, bene Shabbat nekabela, Shahamor v'Zachor v'Dibur echad, Ishmiyanu el HaMiyuchad, Adonai echad u'shmo echad, L'Shemo tiferet v'litila, Lecha Dodi ligerakala, bene Shabbat nekabela, Lecha Dodi ligerakala, bene Shabbat nekabela, לקראת שבת לכבודך, כי היא מקור הברכה, והראש מקדם נשוכה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה, לך דודי ליגרקלה, בני שבת נקבלה, לך דודי ליגרקלה, בני שבת נקבלה, התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באור יקום יורי, בורא
pages 145 and 4. Entrances to holiness are everywhere. The possibility of ascent is all the time, even at unlikely times and through unlikely places. There is no place on earth without the presence.
יתקדע ויתקדש שמי רבה
Amen.
ביומא דברך חירותי וימליך מלכותי
בחייכנו יומך ובחייך בית ישראל.
בגלה בגלה ובזמן קריב אמרו
אמן.
יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם לימי המיה יתברך יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שם קדושם בריחו לעלמין כה ברכתה ושירתה
תושבחתה ונחמתה תמירן בעלמה
ואמרו
אמן. As we continue together, Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, b'chochma poteach sh'arim, uvitvunam mishanei itim umachalif et hazmanim, misader et hakochavim b'mishmerotehem barakia kirtzono. Borei yom v'layla, golei or mipnei choshech v'choshech mipnei or, uma'avir yom umevi layla, ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה אדוני צבאות שמו. אל חי וקיים תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני המעריב ערבים.
אהבת עולם בית ישראל ומשפטים אותנו לימדת על כן אדוני אלוהינו ושוכבנו וקומנו נשיח בחוקך ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל. שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני
We continue on page 154. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. We continue on page 157. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Leshalom Ve'hamidenu Shomrenu Lechayim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Leshalom Ve'hamidenu Shomrenu. Hallelujah. Adonai Eloheinu Leshalom Ve'hamidenu Shomreinu Lechaim Ashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Leshalom Ve'hamidenu Shomreinu Lechaim Ha'amidenu Shomreinu Lechaim.
Blessed are you, Adonai, guardian of Israel, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel, and over Jerusalem. Baruch atah Adonai, haporeis sukat shalom aleinu, ve'akol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim.
Ve'shamru bnei Yisrael et haShabbat la'asot et haShabbat לדורותם בריך העולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם בריך העולם. בני ובני ישראל אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם בריך העולם. כי ששת ימים, כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם בריך העולם. וביום השמיני שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם בריך שפתי תפתח, ופי תהילתך. שפתי תפתח, ופי יגיד תהילתך. שפתי תפתח, ופי יגיד תהילתך. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו ואמותינו, אלוהי אברהם, אלוהי יצחק ואלוהי יעקב, אלוהי שרה, אלוהי רבקה, אלוהי רחל ואלוהי לאה, האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון גומל חסדים טובים וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיה מתים אתה רב להושיע, מוריד הטל. מכפל חיים בחסד, מחיה מתים ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ברופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך מבין ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות מתים. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיה המתים. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש.
Please be seated as I continue on page 172. You set aside the seventh day for your name, the pinnacle of creation, and you blessed it above all other days, more sacred than all festival times. So it is written in your Torah, the heaven and the earth were finished in all their array. On the seventh day, God had completed the work that had been done, ceasing then on the seventh day from all the work that God had done. Then God blessed the seventh day and made it holy and ceased from all the creative work that God had chosen to do. Eloheinu v'Elokei avotenu v'imotenu, our God and God of our ancestors, be pleased with our rest. Sanctify us with your mitzvot and grant us a share in your Torah. Satisfy us with your goodness and gladden us with your salvation. Purify our hearts to serve you in truth. In your gracious love, eternal our God, grant as our heritage your holy Shabbat, that Israel who sanctifies your name may rest on it. Praised are you, eternal, who sanctifies Shabbat. Baruch ata Adonai, mekadesh ha-Shabbat. You are with us in our prayer, our love, and our doubt, in our longing to feel your presence and do your will. You are the still clear voice within us. Therefore, O God, when doubt troubles us, when anxiety makes us tremble, when pain clouds the mind, we look inward for the answer to our prayers. There may we find you, and there find courage, insight, and endurance. And let our worship bring us closer to one another, that all Israel and all who seek you may find new strength for your service. Baruch ata Adonai, she'otcha levadcha b'yira na'avod. We acknowledge with thanks that you are the eternal our God and the God of our ancestors forever. You are the rock of our lives and the shield of our salvation in every generation. Let us thank you and praise you for our lives which are in your hand and for our souls which are in your care. For your miracles we experience every day and for your wondrous deeds and favors at every time of day, evening, morning, and noon. O good one whose mercies never end, O compassionate one whose kindness never fails, we forever put our hope in you. For all these things, O sovereign, let your name be forever praised and blessed. O God, our Redeemer and Helper, let all who live affirm you and praise your name in truth. Blessed are you, Eternal One, your name is goodness, and you are worthy of thanksgiving. Baruch ata Adonai hatov shimcha, u'lecha na'eh lahodot.
Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasir Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael טסים לעולם, וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל, בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שלום רב ישראל עמך תשים לעולם, שלום רב ישראל עמך תשים לעולם, תשים לעולם, תשים לעולם. ברוך אתה מברך את עמו ישראל בשלום. שלום במרומה, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל, ואמרו שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל, ואמרו אמן. יאללה לה לה לה, יאללה לה לה לה, יאללה לה 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 לה, יאללה לה 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 לה, יאללה לה לה לה. עושה שלום במרומה, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל, ואמרו אמן, ואמרו אמן.
In the week to come, among those couples who will be observing their wedding anniversaries are Ken and Janet Sachs. Our God and God of the generations before us, we thank you for our sacred heritage of marriage and family life. Throughout history, marriage has been the firm foundation to our people, when we were driven from place to place and when we were at rest and settled. We praise you, Eternal One, for sanctifying your people Israel by the covenant of marriage. We thank you for the fullness of joy of those who were celebrating the anniversary of their wedding in this season. Their lives are blessed with the gift of loving comradeship and of devotion to each other. Their joys are heightened, their difficulties lightened as they face life together. May their companionship continue to bring them strength. May their home be hallowed by your divine guidance. May their lives continue to be enriched by affection and mutual respect. May they be blessed with peace and health and contentment, as together we all say, Amen. Continue on page 371, and those of you watching on the screens will see the words appear momentarily. Bishaberach avotenu v'yimotenu Avram Yitzchak v'Yakov Sar Rivcha Rachel v'Leah U'yavarech et Cholim. May the one who blessed our ancestors Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bless and heal those of our friends who are ill. Debbie Alpert, Allison Arthur, Matthew Bamberger, Ruth Bat Chana v'Aryeh HaKohen, Jill Barwick, Naomi Tamar Bat Masha v'Shimon, Michael Gad Ben Micha, Louis Bayer, Andy Blank, Rick Bolter, David Borkin, Vivian Borkin, Adeline Serena Hadja Bosse, Joel Bradley, Andrew Dalen, Debbie Dalich, Sharita Camp, Kathleen Duplier, Robert Fono, Alex Franklin, Autumn Gad, Greg Garcia, Lisa Gendelman, Blaine Goldner, Leah Bat Chaikiu Mordechai, Rosalind Halpern, Sam Hanna, Barbara Heilbrenner, Alana Himmelfarb, Edith Howard, Carrie Huxley, Jimmy Kaplan, Mara Kanaz, Rachel Kanaz, Ed Knox, Karen Krasno, Jean Lauterbach, Barbara Lieb, Ellen Levin, Lenore Levin, Ron Levin, Kathy Liddell, Wendy Mayer, Yosef Rafael Ben Yudit, Zavi Ram, Robert Gold Kravit, Artie Majeski, Sidney Miracle, Steve Pump, Lippin Pinchas, Ben Liba Umendel, Marla Borkin, Ken Sandler, Zelma Schloss, Erlinda Schock, Ruth Bat Irene Avraham, Gary Shovers, Lois Sorkin, Claudia Steele, Asher Yitzchak, Ben Yael, Rivka Venisin Lev, Marty Stein, Jim Stillman, Jenny Vergetis, Scott Weigel, Leo Weinshell, Rebecca Zuckerman, Harav Chaim, Ben Rachel Leutz, Via Cohen, Nadiva Zayat, Bat Ilana Uvinyamin Ber, Shoshana Bat Harav, Ari Vishoshana, Briam Sevilla Bat Pero, Chanaleah Bat Joyce Vilian, David Pinchas Ben Leah Yaakov, Rachel Bat Devorah Avraham, Moshe Avram Ben Leni Umeir, Rachel Chaya Bat Chava, Shoshana Yudit Bat Malka, Bat Malka Umeir, Yaakov Mordechai Ben Mushaleah, Shmuel Ben Esther Vakalman, Sharon Bat Friedel, and I only have some first names, Svetlana, Lena, Ekaterina, Doris, Michael, Valina, Anastasia. And to those names we add, if you have any names, if you'll raise your hand. Yeah, Paul? Douglas McCann. Dan? Jim Wilkinson. Maury? David Fisherman, Shirley Power, Paul Goldstein, Karen Savin. I want to repeat all those so everyone can hear them. So start again one by one, Maury, if you would. David Fisherman. David Fisherman. Shirley Powell. Shirley Powell. Paula Goldstein. Paula Goldstein. Paula Goldstein. Karen Savinow. Yeah, Cheryl. Daniel Hoffman. Rini. Sarah Rachel Bat Yocheved. And if there are those who are on Zoom who have names to add, if you raise your hands virtually or visually, because we are praying on their behalf. May the Blessed Holy One be filled with compassion for their health to be restored, their strength to be revived. May God swiftly send them a complete renewal of spirit and of body. May God grant wisdom and insight to those who bring healing. And may God grant courage and compassion and comfort to those whose struggles continue. As together we all say,
of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mi sheberach imotenu mekor habracha. Bless those with refuah shelema, the renewal of spirit, the renewal of body, and let us say
Parashat HaShavua, the Torah portion this week, is entitled Amor. It runs from the 21st to the 24th chapters of Vayikra of the book of Leviticus. Now, Evie, I know you're not reading from Amor tomorrow, which is kind of odd because you're reading from what Torah portion? Did all of you hear her real loud, both of them again? She's reading from Acharei Mot Kedoshim because she was scheduled to have her bat mitzvah about a year ago when we would have been reading this portion. And due to COVID, we've put it off all this year, allowing her to maintain the same portion. So if you join us at our Shabbat morning service tomorrow, where Evie will celebrate becoming bat mitzvah, and you're all invited, you'll hear a wonderful Devar Torah, very insightful Devar Torah, about last week's portion, which is the central portion of Torah, and it is absolutely wonderful. You should all be here. Having said this, now in this week's portion, and there is, if you put together the three names of Acharei Mot, Kedoshim, Amor, it kind of translates after the death, holiness, saying. And one wonders what those three together might mean. But there's no question that through these portions, the central theme has to do with holiness in some way. The holiness that may come in and through death, the holiness that exists in the priesthood itself, which is what a major portion of this section has, and of course what each of us have to do to be holy day by day. So this Shabbat, I'm going to be reading from the festival discussion, in particular those verses about these spring days in our calendar. For we are in that period of time between Pesach and Shavuot, known as the Sfirah, as the counting of the Omer, those days which link Pesach, the festival of freedom, to Shavuot, the festival of Torah. Now, the verses I'm going to be reading, verses 4 to 16 of the 23rd chapter of Leviticus, deal only with the agricultural origins of these festivals, but I'll make the next step after I read. So, again, 23rd chapter of Vayikra of Leviticus, verse 4, you'll find it beginning on page 824. The Chumashim are seated throughout the sanctuaries in the pockets of some of the chairs, perhaps right behind you, or if you see some of the Chumashim in row in front of you, you'll discover it that way. Again, page 824. These are the set times of the eternal, the sacred occasions which you shall celebrate each at its appointed time. In the first month, on the 14th day of the month at twilight, there shall be a Passover offering to the eternal. And on the 15th day of the month, the eternal's feast of unleavened bread. You shall eat unleavened bread for 7 days. On the first day you shall celebrate a sacred occasion. You shall not work at your occupations. 7 days you shall make offerings by fire to the eternal. The 7th day shall be a sacred occasion. You shall not work at your occupations. The Eternal One spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the Israelite people and say to them, When you enter the land that I am giving to you and you reap its harvest, you shall bring the first sheaf of your harvest to the priest. He shall elevate the sheaf before the Eternal for acceptance in your behalf. The priest shall elevate it on the day after the Sabbath. On the day that you elevate the sheaf, you shall offer as a burnt offering to the Eternal a lamb of the first year without blemish. The meal offering with it shall be 2/10 of a measure of choice flour with oil mixed in, an offering by fire of pleasing odor to the Eternal. And the libation with it shall be of wine 1/4 of a hin. Until that very day, until you have brought the offering of your God, you shall eat no bread or parched grain or fresh ears. It is a lot for all time throughout the ages in all of your settlements. And from the day on which you brought the sheaf of elevation offering, the day after the Sabbath, you shall count off 7 weeks. They must be complete. You must count them until the day after the 7th week, 50 days. Then you shall bring an offering of new grain to the Eternal. But as we all know, the agricultural origins of our holy days are completely meshed into their religious historical origins. Birth or rebirth at Pesach becomes then first fruits at Shavuot, just as we learn that a free society without law could not exist. For our liberation from the house of bondage is directly connected to our meeting in the wilderness, the escape from slavery and through the sea of reeds to the gift at Sinai, our joy in freedom to our gratitude for Torah. Redemption is ultimately incomplete without revelation. For freedom, we learn time and again, is incomplete without law. In fact, true freedom is impossible without law. I guess I could quote the famous philosopher Chris Christopherson. Freedom without law may well be just another word for nothing left to lose. While law without freedom is bondage and slavery, freedom without law becomes anarchy and chaos. And for us Jews, the Omer, this counting up period of 7 weeks, reflects how well we know the delicacy of that balance between freedom and law. And we are feeling that tension play out all around us in American society today. What are my individual freedoms? What are my responsibilities to all the individuals around me, to my community, and to my community at large? Now, in a little while, the cantor is going to make the traditional formal announcement that this is the 28th day in the counting of the Omer. Yeah. But first, I must clearly respond to the threat once more posed to that balance, this time, of course, regarding abortion. Now, there are a couple of profound values which inform the traditional Jewish position regarding abortion. First, our bodies are not ours. They are not ours to do with whatever we want to do with them. They belong to God. Second, feticide is not murder, and thus, by extension, abortion is not murder. As I've said many times, the core text for the Jewish position on abortion goes back to the book of Exodus, chapter 21, verses 22 to 23. You can check it again if you want to in your texts. It contains a description of a fight between two men, which then accidentally causes an injury to a nearby pregnant woman who then miscarries. A capital crime only arises if the woman dies. The death of the fetus results in monetary compensation. Generations of discussion and commentary ultimately reflect that Judaism is neither pro-choice nor pro-life, but is both pro-choice and pro-life. Choose life, we are commanded again and again. Rabbi Arthur Hertzberg, alav hashalom, summed it up best when he wrote, "The core principle is that the fetus is not some inconvenient growth in the mother's body. It is a potential life and must be protected unless there is a provable danger to the life of the mother. And that danger can be understood as physical or emotional. Maternal existing life takes precedence over fetal potential life." In fact, difficult as it may be to hear this, the reality is, in our tradition, if the mother's life is endangered, and the only way to save the mother's life is through an abortion, even if that mother wishes to sacrifice her own life to have that baby, she's still required, according to our tradition, to have the abortion. As we all know, other faith communities have different concerns and understandings about abortion than we do as Jews, and we should seek to understand and respect those views. But a case can and should be made from our perspective that limitations on abortion rights in this country would and will violate our religious freedom, and that of a number of other faith communities. Now, the larger argument will continue regarding that balance between freedom and law, particularly in the area of personal bodily autonomy. There are all kinds of issues regarding Whose body is this? Of course, it becomes very different because this really only refers to women, not men at all, as opposed to other issues regarding bodily autonomy, such as euthanasia, for example. There is a powerful article I saw in, it must have been in the JTA just a day or two ago by a professor, Michal Raucher at Rutgers, trying to deal with the notion of personal bodily autonomy, which is what you'll hear most of the Jewish organizations speaking out of. But regardless, more than ever, our voices and our votes must be heard as Roe v. Wade is so profoundly challenged. Later on at the announcements, Rini will tell us a little bit about what is taking place this coming Tuesday. It is Tuesday, Rini, right? It just happens that the National Council of Jewish Women was holding their national meeting in Washington, I guess beginning Sunday and running through Tuesday or Wednesday. So tied in during their time in DC, she'll tell you what's happening and what's happening here. With that, we are going to continue with the count of the Omer. You'll find it on page 570 in the Sidurim, or before you on the screen.
הנני מוכן ומזומן לקיים מצוות עשה של ספירת העומר. I'm ready to fulfill the mitzvah of counting the Omer. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al sfirat haomer. Hayom shmona v'yesrim yom, shehem arba'a shavuot la'omer. Today is the 28th day, that is to say 4 weeks, in the counting of the Omer.
As we rise, Aleinu, page 586.
Aleinu leshabeach l'Adon hakol, atei gidula liyotzeh b'reshit, shelo asanu k'goyei ha'arashot, ve'lo asamanu k'mishmechot ha'adama, shelo asam b'chelkenu kahem, ve'gor aleinu k'chol hamonam, va'anachnu koreim u'mishtachavim u'modim, lifnei הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגובה מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת בקנו וזולתו, הכתוב את תורתו, וידעת יום בחשבות אל לבביך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד.
על כן נקווה לך, אדוני אלוהינו, לראות מהרה בתפארת עוזך, לתקן עולם במלכות שדי. Eternal our God, how soon we hope to behold the perfection of our world, guided by a sacred covenant drawn from human and divine meeting. May we gain wisdom in our lives overflowing like a river with understanding, loved each of us for the peace we bring to others. May our deeds exceed our speech, and may we never lift up our hand but to conquer fear and doubt and despair. Rise up like the sun, O God, over all humanity. Cause light to go forth over all the lands between the seas, and light up the universe with the joy of wholeness, of freedom, and of peace.
ונאמר היה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו Shema, O Shema Echad.
Our thoughts turn now to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and of death. As we take a few moments to read silently any one of the meditations you can find between pages 592 and 597, or whatever of your own prayers may be on your hearts. As the names of your dear ones are mentioned, we invite you to rise in their loving memory as we remember the relatives and friends of our congregation who have gone before us into life eternal. We remember tonight the names of James Passion, John Veal, Jordan M. Fishman, Brian Ira Kazan, Henry Arden Haynes, Neil Hootkin, Cyril Newman, Jonathan Burstein, Carlos Escobar, Boaz Gol, Yonatan Havakuk, Oren Ben Yiftach, Shireen Abu Akleh, who were laid to rest recently. We remember also the names of David Adishek, Edith Arnstein, Sarah A. Auschwitz, Sanford B. Baum, Jerry Benjamin, Emily Gates Berkwich, Albert Blecker, Alice Clark, Buzz Cody, Renee Dagola, Sarah Eigman, Sadie Ettenheim, Joseph Filko, Suzanne Gilbert, Gertrude R. Goldberger, Fred Grun, Harry L. Heller, Lillian Goldman Hirsch, Betty Klitzner, Edmund M. Cohn, Walter L. Cohn, Isidore Lakin, Ernest W. Lane, Kenneth Lauer, Norman G. Lesser, Herman Levitz, Rebecca Krasno-Levy, Eileen Lieberman, Esther Lubatsky, Estelle Blumenfeld-Myers, Philip Leonard Padden, Pearl Cohn Patek, Eleanor R. Pillay, Ann Barbara Rice, David Rothstein, Abe Rubenstein, Alvin E. Rumack, Ida Schlachter, Carl Schloss, Dennis Scholl, Goldie Berman Nankin Schuster, Abraham Siegel, Edward Sepper, Edward Siegel, Shirley Simon, Betty Steiner, Edith Weinberg, Simon C. Weisfeld, Morris Yellen, and Burton C. Zucker, whose anniversary of death is remembered tonight. If there are others here in mourning or observing yard-side, as my hand comes around, if you'll stand and say the name. Dan? Susie Fono? Paul? Carl Bruce? Nancy? Bernice Rothenberg? And again, those of you joining us on Zoom, if you raise your hands virtually or visually. We also remember those who perished in the Shoah who have no yahrzeit dates. We pray, may their souls be bound up in the bond of eternal life. May their repose be peace. Zichronam livracha. May their memories forever be a blessing. As we ask the congregation to join with those who mourn in the words of Kaddish, page 598. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbah.
Amen.
V'alma divra kirutei v'yamlich malchutei. B'chaye echon u'v'yom echon u'v'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael. Ba'agalal v'zman kari v'yimru. Amen.
Amen.
Yehi shmei Rabbah mivorach le'olam u'lalmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmedi dekudsha brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechamata. Da'amiran bi'alma v'yimru. Amen.
Amen.
Shlama Rabba min Shemaya v'chayim. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru. Amen.
Amen.
Oseh shalom bimromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru. Amen.
Amen.
May the one who makes peace in the high heavens above send peace down here to us. To all Israel and to all the world, as together we all say, Amen. Our condolences also go to the family of Floyd Schwade. Floyd died in Florida. The funeral will be on Wednesday at 2 o'clock, graveside at Mount Zion. The information will be going out next week. You may be seated. And before we turn to Rini Cavalar for announcements this Shabbat, it is my delight and pleasure to welcome Maury and Lisa back with us tonight. The Goldsteins are in town because they're celebrating a special simcha, the marriage of their son, Ken, to Brianna Healy. It's taking place Sunday afternoon. So we're thrilled to welcome you guys back, and we look forward to seeing you afterwards. And I'm sure they're torn in terms of what's happening on Sunday, too, for all kinds of practical and personal reasons in terms of a basketball game. Reedy.
Shabbat Shalom. Congratulations. Do well tomorrow. I'm sure you will, Evie. Thank you, Dan, for accompanying us tonight. And thanks to Paul Eberhardy and Ann Klein for our greeters. And as you leave the sanctuary, you will please bring your books back to them. We have a lot going on in the next couple of weeks. First of all, on Sunday at 5 o'clock, we have our Salute to Song and Spirit that the cantor and Rena Stroba will be performing, and tickets are still available. On Tuesday morning at 8 a.m. here at the synagogue, we will be hosting a virtual rally that is being put on by the National Council for Jewish Women. Doors will open at 7:45 a.m. The community is invited, and a notice will be going out Sunday morning about the rally. It will be here. The NCJW has over 100 sponsors. The rally is happening in Washington, D.C., and folks are welcome here to show their support, and we hope to see you here. The Brotherhood is inviting you to their annual family Chinooks outing. The Glean Machine is ongoing now on Monday and Tuesdays, and it will be here next weekend, along with our Mitzvah Day. We have lots of exciting activities that will be occurring with Mitzvah Day. Everyone is invited. This is a family-oriented activity, so our Ramamu children should be here with their families, and all of you who don't have kids should also be here. There'll be lots of things going on. We're bringing back Snack Pack, which has been a favorite of putting together 1,000 packages for children that don't have food during the summer that Hunger Task Force will be giving out. We have about 4 other activities going on, as well as cleaning out our pond that Cheryl is working on, and she can use some help. So bring your rubber boots and your loppers and your saws and whatever else, clippers. All right. And then next Friday night is our Brotherhood Parent-Child Shabbat. So we hope to see you there as well. Shabbat Shalom.
And let me also add for next Friday night, too, there'll be if you'll pardon the expression, a preneg before the service at 5:15. In honor of Yom Ha'atzmaut, Israel Independence Day, Paul Margolis will be with us sharing some of his magnificent photographs taken in Israel. There's a whole description of it. It'll be from 5:15 to 6:15 with the service at 6:15. Our closing song, and after the service, we invite you to join with Evie and her mom and dad and her sister, and her grandparents too. We'll be doing Kiddush, Motzi, and Benchlicht in Sirlo Hall, so we hope to see you there. Our closing song is Ki Eshmera Shabbat. Page 634, please rise and remain standing for the benediction.
ישמר השבת, ישמרני, כי ישמר השבת, ישמרני, אותי לעולמי עד בינו וביני, אותי לעולמי עד בינו וביני, כי ישמר השבת,
Adonai Oz Le'amo Yitain. May the Eternal One grant us all strength. Adonai Yivarech et Amo V'Shalom. May the Eternal One bless us all always with the most precious gift of all, the gift of shalom, of peace. Shabbat Shalom. Good Shabbos.
Shabbat Shalom.
Up there.
We want to invite you, and I'll come a little closer, and I'm going to invite whoever is left in the hall to cut the card.
We mark the beginning of the sacred time, Shabbat, the day of rest. We pause and remind ourselves of the beauty of this world, of the loves that embrace us, of the blessings that fill us.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher קידשנו במצוותיו, וציוונו להר מקנה, וציוונו להר מקנה, של שבת.
May we be blessed with Shabbat joy.
Amen.
May we be blessed with Shabbat peace.
Amen.
May we be blessed with Shabbat life.
Amen.
"6 days you will work and achieve, but the seventh day is dedicated to the term of the Lord your God. As the fruit of the vine, our sweet symbol of joy, we celebrate the sacred day. We give thanks for life and its blessings, for work and rest, for the opportunity to gain, and the privilege to give, for home, friendship,
ויהי בבוקר יום השישי, ויחולו השמיים והארץ, וכל צבא, ויחל אלוהים ביום השביעי מלאכתו אשר עשה, וישכון ביום השביעי מכל מלאכתו אשר עשה, ויברך אלוהים את יום השביעי, ויקדש אותו, כי בו שבת מכל מלאכתו, אשר ברא, אלוהים לעשות.
Sabri!
לחיים, ברוך אתה אולי אלוהינו מלך העולם, בורא פרי הגפן, ברוך אתה אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר קידשנו במצוותיו ורצה בנו, ושבת קודשו ויעבור רצון וידיענו, זיכרון למעשה בראשית, כי הוא יום תפילה למקרא קודש, דרך ארץ יציאת מצרים, קיבלנו בחרת איתנו קנאת מכל העמים, ושבת קודש נביאה וברצון, הנחתנו, ברוך אתה מקדש השבת.
The challah is coming around, and the brickmans pull together, start us off at Motzi.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, המוציא לחם מן הארץ בתי העם. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.